Okay, the next step in the assembly is to get what I call the Z-axis plate. This is the plate that has the V-groove bearings that slides the Z-axis back and forth along the X. Again, this is a piece of quarter plate steel. It's quite heavy and it definitely will not have any flex to it. But the first thing I need to do is, and again on this one you'll see that I have through holes at the top for the V-groove bearings, and then every place where the V-groove bearings adjust, there's a slot. So we'll start off by putting the two in here at the top and the two in here at the bottom, and then getting that adjusted to this rail here. Okay, again, you've got your machine screw, the V-groove bearing, two of the washers. The washers go up against the V-groove bearing and against the plate, and then the caps nut goes on the other side. You'll notice that, again, the orientation is the two through holes at the top, the two slots at the bottom, and then these slots should be, when you're facing the machine, should be to the right. And for these four, you're actually using a 1024 by 1 inch screw. You could use a 3/4, but the 3/4 that are provided are for this other side. Okay, just like on the other one, when you're doing the adjusting these bearings, you can put a wrench on this nut and you can actually kind of get it a little bit snug. But then you want to use this nut, kind of lift up on it to raise that bearing up in that slot as you're tightening it. And again, make sure you get these tightened down really good once you've got it snug against the rail there. And just like before, we've got a bracket that holds the Acme nut that we need to attach here. And notice that you wouldn't be able to get to it if you go ahead and put everything else on here, so you need to put that on right after you get these V-groove bearings set. So we'll take the third and final little L-shaped bracket here and a couple of the 632 screws, and just like we did on the brackets for the Y-axis there, they just attach the same way. Again, I'm going to run the screw head on this side where that spring is, put the little nut on this side, and I might have mentioned this before, and if I haven't, I guess you probably figured it out by now, that some of this stuff, if you buy just package A, You don't want to put all it together until you get your Acme nuts, whether you buy them from me or you buy them from, from the link I put in the plans, or if you find your own or whatever. You're not going to want to assemble this whole package A, which is the sheet metal components, until you get your nuts, because if you do, you're going to have to take a bunch of stuff back apart to be able to do this. That's why I'm showing you these steps kind of in the order that they need to be done, so that you don't have to take anything back apart. Okay, so got the Acme nut mounted to that bracket, and now I will put this bracket, and again it's a lot easier to do while you've got all this loose here. A 1/2-inch screw will work. You won't have a whole lot of screws sticking out. You could use a 3/4 if you've got it, but the 1/2-inch will work fine for that. There'll be enough thread to grab and pull it tight. Okay. Also, you want to make sure you've got this little bracket. Make sure you've got it on here straight. There is a little bit of play, not much, but just make sure that it is on there straight. And tighten it securely, and then it should slide right on here, like so. Okay, now we've got to put our V-groove bearings for the Z-axis right here. So again, we pull this back off, and we'll start out. I always put these 3 on first because they're the through holes, so they go on in and you can tighten them all the way down. And for these, I want to use, again, these go the same way they always do. You have the screw head on this side, the V-groove bearing, 2 of those little washers, and that goes against the plate, and just the tips nut on the back side. And these are using a 3/4 long, because you can't have that stick out too far, otherwise it will interfere with running on the rail here. It's very close, but there's just a small gap there, so you use a 3/4 1024 machine screw there to put the V-groove bearings on this side of the plate towards the front of the machine. Okay, after you get your bracket and your Acme nut mounted on there and secure, you can put the V-groove bearings all in. The side that has the through holes, you can go ahead and tighten those down, make sure those are still tight. The ones here that are in the slot, keep them pulled as far apart as possible here on the slot, because we will have to adjust those once we get the Z-axis box all put together. So we want to pull them out to the end of the slot to give the maximum amount of room to get that in, and then we will put them in. So now it's wide open there. Put this on here like so.